So welcome everybody to this XR Network Plus seminar. I'm Jane Harris, Director of the Fashion, Textiles and Technology Institute at University of the Arts London and co-investigator for this EPSRC XR Network Plus project. We welcome two projects today funded by the XR Network Plus that explore the use of virtual production technologies to advance the capabilities of digital simulation. First, we'll hear from Asadipour at Royal College of Art to discuss their project developing a high-fidelity earthquake simulation environment. This project merged scientific physical simulation engines with game engines to create an earthquake simulation capable of real-time performance, while being more user-friendly and possessing greater visual fidelity than previous models. And then we'll learn about something completely different, unlocking 3D digital practices in hair, makeup and prosthetics, a project from presenters Turnbull, Mollie Gibb at London College of Fashion and James Simpson from the company Copper Candle. This project addressed the knowledge gap in the design and application of hair, makeup and prosthetics for digital characters, developing workflows for learners in the field. But first, I'm going to briefly introduce what the XR Network Plus is. This is a virtual production. This is a virtual production initiative in the digital economy, which provides funding and support to researchers working in virtual production across the UK. Through our networks of partners, as you can see from our map, we have partners in Ireland, Scotland, Yorkshire, who is leading the programme, Wales, Cardiff and London. We are setting a research agenda for virtual production, supporting growth and facilitating collaboration across academia and industry on a national stage. XR Network Plus is funded by the Engineering and Physical Sciences Research Council, EPSRC, and the network's objective, overarching, is to establish a 10-year research agenda for virtual production from now. So what is it that this field will require technically in the future and ahead? XR Network Plus is led by the University of York in collaboration with ourselves, University of the Arts London, University of Edinburgh, Cardiff and Ulster universities. Research collaboration, co-creation and challenge-led innovation are the cornerstones of XR Network Plus activity, and the project is building a community of academic research and industry R&D at the convergence of ideas, technologies and creative practice in virtual production to deliver impact and opportunity for the whole of the digital economy. The format for today's seminar: each set of presenters will speak for 10 minutes. Development of a high-fidelity earthquake simulation environment for VP first, and then unblocking 3D digital practice. Their team will follow. Each presentation will be 10 minutes long, as I've said, and then this will be followed by 15 minutes of questions for both presentations. We have some questions prepared. But for those of you who are joining us in the audience, we really do sincerely invite you to submit your own questions, either for both projects or just one. Please submit any questions you have using the Q&A box or on your Zoom screen. And you can do this at any point in the seminar. So we should be all wrapped up by 4:15 today. But without further ado, I'm going to hand over first to Ali Asadipour from Royal College of Art with your presentation. Ali, if you can tune us in, we look forward to hear from you, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ali. I'm the founder and academic lead of the Computer Science Research Center at the Royal College of Art, and I'm the PI of the project called Development of High Fidelity Earthquake Simulation Environment for Visual Production. So we are actually in the domain of immersive experiences and AI at the Computer Science Research Center, and we're focusing on the 4 key areas of immersive, intelligent, interactive kind of spaces. And then we're looking into like multi-sensory kind of data collection and delivering it in a high fidelity kind of environment. So I think the aim of the activities we have in the center is based on creating believable, intuitive, and safer spaces for practicing things such as experience of being in an extreme event. So we started the thinking about like the mission Earth and the climate change and how these technologies can actually addressing these challenges, as well as focusing on things such as green computing to not adding to the burden of energy consumption. So one of the key areas of focus for us was creating like intuitive and safe digital twins that we can actually immersing different kind of actors and agents into these spaces, and then see how it actually enhance the experience of being prepared and being aware about these changes in the environment. So to also addressing actually the big challenge of using like energy and the big challenge of creating kind of a climate kind of problems by adding to the computing kind of power without actually looking into like how you can actually create more efficient kind of methods. We started actually thinking about submitting an application to the XR Network+. So when we're addressing today about digital twin, what we're interested in is actually the level 5 of autonomy, which AI can actually let us to do that, and that's quite interesting for the virtual production and game specifically. And then when we're talking about data, we can actually say that our planet is actually being observed by a lot of like sensory kind of mediums that we can actually get a huge amount of like data from these places. And then we can create actually digital twins in different scales, from earth level to city level to like a street and building level, which is kind of also of value to many industries, including the creative industry. Looking at examples such as Esri, ArcGIS, or the Cesium, there are platforms that letting you to just build like a city level kind of structures, and then looking at actually different scenarios, immersive scenarios, practicing that in these environments. One of the challenges we focused on this project was earthquake. Obviously, UK is not very actually affected by this problem, but I think we have a lot of like British citizens traveling around the world, and sometimes actually like the recent earthquake in Thailand, actually they stuck in situations that they don't have any idea about how to react about it. We also have first responders. We also have policymakers in different countries who are dealing with these problems. So one example could be Japan, which they're just dealing with these problems on a daily basis, and then having a platform that you can actually safely practice this and collecting information from different places on Earth to using this information for enhancing kind of the citizens' awareness and citizen preparedness is key. So I'm delighted to say that on behalf of my partners on this project and the co-investigators, we have a collaboration with the University of New South Wales, Australia. We also actually have an industry partnership with Foster & Partner, and we have actually amazing kind of experience thanks to the XR Network+ on running two larger scale workshops in Australia and UK. So to just summarize how this thing works is actually adding accuracy of the material into Unreal Engine. This platform is based on Unreal 5. We actually use like platforms such as ANSYS to just understanding like how concrete behave under pressure or something like that, and then using that information to creating like different behaviors for different materials used in game industry, used in like virtual production industry, for like construction, for different kind of spaces, and then applying like real kind of time vibration data captured from different like earthquakes to these kind of like simulated spaces to see how we can actually use AI to matching actually the post ruins with the previous kind of real cases, and then we achieve the higher accuracy on like simulating like these kind of sort of like demolitions of construction. So we at the RC have a bigger space called Visualization Lab, and we actually can show these kind of experiences in a three-sided kind of projection space, and this is amazing because you can actually have 20 to 30 people in this space to just experiencing scenarios like this, and this is kind of like sometimes key for people like with like first responders who can't actually wear like VR headsets or something because of the kits they need to carry around in these scenarios. So it's real time, it's accurate, it's user-friendly platform, and it's actually has a huge kind of like a use in the VP and the game industry. And it can actually enhance the realism because it's multi-sensory actually from scratch. And then the AI helping us to automating and actually making everything much better in this space. So there are academic, because I have 10 minutes, I can't actually go through the details, but we have publications that we can actually look at, and all the information is actually explained in these publications. I can show you a video of how does this fit into like something like demolishing the whole city for a movie or something like that. And this has been created in like 1 day using this method. So. So as part of the collaboration that we have with the UNSW, and Australia is quite prone to extreme events such as wildfire. We're also actually working on other sort of like extreme events like a wildfire with my colleague actually. And there's a book actually out about all the kind of technologies we use actually to addressing these problems in such platforms. And thank you very much. So I think if you scan the QR code on the screen, and I believe that the team will actually share some of this information with you, but you can go to our YouTube channel and watch the videos and see the technical details in there. Thank you.
Thank you, Ali. That was fascinating. I'm sure we're going to have lots of questions around that, not least. I think that sense of experience is it's so realistic, even online in this form. So we'll come back to you on that. I would just remind those joining us, please do come up with some key questions. We have some questions to follow up, but please do come up with some questions that we think will be novel because they're going to be coming from you directly. So I'm going to pass over now to Ben Turnbull, Mollie Gibb, and James Simpson. Ben and Mollie are University of the Arts London, London College of Fashion, and James is with the company Copper Candle. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Can you hear me okay?
We can. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ali. That was a fascinating presentation. So good afternoon, everybody. Let's do introductions first. Mollie, if you want to go first.
Yep. Hi, I'm a lecturer at LCF, and I teach on the hair, makeup, and prosthetics for performance course. I'm also a makeup artist with over 10 years in industry.
Thank you. And James?
Yeah, hi, I'm James Simpson. I'm the CEO of Copper Candle, and we're the industry partner on this project.
Brilliant. Thank you both. And my name is Ben Turnbull. I'm Senior Lecturer in Performance Technology and Design at London College of Fashion, UAL, and the Principal Investigator on this prototype project, unlocking 3D digital practices in hair, makeup, and prosthetics for performances in virtual production. So this project addresses a knowledge gap regarding the application and rendering of hair, skin, makeup, and body prosthetics in virtual production. And we wanted to test whether bringing craft practitioners to the project and those with the physical making practice would lead to the development of richer, more engaging 3D characters. And we're testing a pipeline that consists of, broadly speaking, industry standard software and workflows that we would teach to our trainee makeup artists and document their feedback and their creative processes in order to determine whether artists could translate their creative skills via the tool sets we were teaching them. At the same time, we wanted to test and explore how working on a digital production and pipeline would affect the collaborative practices of hair and makeup, the relationship between the makeup artist and the performer, and makeup art, practice, and a wider production team. In order to do that, we needed to create a prototype digital production, which was this one. So with this project, we proposed that immersive performance rooted in creative technology can employ the skills of those currently in the theatre and live performance industries, including hair, makeup, and prosthetics. We set our makeup artists the challenge of creating characters from an adaptation of Shakespeare's The Tempest to be experienced in the game Fortnite. Responding to an industry brief set by James and Copper Candle, that Fortnite can be used as an educational tool for potentially for pupils at school to meet encountering tech characters appearing in text that they're studying, using gameplay, narrative, and character skins to learn more about the thematic material and how themes and contexts of The Tempest can potentially play out in our contemporary world. This brief provided the perfect basis from which to develop workflows for hair, makeup, and technical special effects artists to apply their practice to digital characters. The core challenge was to create a practice of embodiment that would preserve artistic intent, capture material nuance, and enable our artists' creative expression in what were, for them, starting out, alien digital environments. Finally, it was key for the project team, who all come from a live performance background, to preserve and enhance the close human-to-human professional interrelationship that exists between makeup artist and performer. When makeup becomes shader systems, hair becomes physics-based simulations, and prosthetics becomes deforming algorithms. So this was the project team. So it was a big team that we put together, and I also want to particularly note our industry placement makeup artists, whose practice you're going to see throughout this. That's Daisy and Hannah and Rosa and Zach. And also not listed here is the great team at the UAL's XR Research Lab, who supported the sort of the culmination of the project, Yana Rydell and Miriam Sherif Mazoudi. So we delivered the hybrid digital physical practices through practical workshops led by Imogen Fox and Yilin Du, whilst Imogen also built the Island of the Tempest in Unreal Engine and developed from the art direction and concept created by the hair makeup artist. She instilled a creative approach that encouraged playing with technology informed by cyberfeminism, surrealism, and posthumanism, questioning digital identity and storytelling through the development of e-makeup, hair, and prosthetic techniques. We can see some outcomes from those workshops there. And here you can see some of the outcomes from the workshops of the development of the characters of Ariel and Trinculo the clown. And this, for those, is the sort of fuller pipeline and workflows that we put together for this project. So starting from a design workshop phase all the way to a virtual production shoot, which I'll talk a bit more in a minute. And these are really about developing hybrid hair and makeup, physical and digital practices, leading to the creation of these characters. So The Tempest is a story filled with characters who are a creative challenge from a hair and makeup perspective. And it's also a story about oppression and colonialism and racism. And Jumana Murad and the performers of Ishad Dance worked very closely with the makeup artist to develop these characters sensitively with respect to injustices and power dynamics in the text and to the creative design challenges. LCS photogrammetry rig, you see in the top right, mesh to metahuman and motion capture allows us to digitize our cast and record the movement of bodies, creating realistic 3D avatars that can be enhanced through digital makeup, simulated hair, and sculpting tools for prosthetics. It's important to emphasize that the performers and Jumana's choreographic practices were key to developing the project characters ethically and collaboratively. The team creating a performance and movement-led story that sits not in Fortnite as an online space between live performance mediated and gameplay-inspired narratives. Prospero, this character, Prospero the Magician, was digital first. He's the only character in the performance whose movement and likeness was not based upon a real-life human being. With the rest, we used the Xsense motion capture solution to record the movements of our cast, performers, and these animations, thanks to the efforts of technical specialist James Russell, were assigned to rigged characters in Unreal Engine. I won't go through every workflow, but we found generative AI, in this case we use Stable Diffusion, to be a really useful design iterative tool, being able to create variations on a base look that could be mapped to the performers' faces very quickly. And this can be really useful when designing quickly for an ensemble cast, a chorus, or a corps de ballet, for example, where you need an amount of uniformity, but then can then be quickly customized. And this was developed with technical specialist Leah Hoy. And then finally, a virtual production shoot became the final challenge for our hair and makeup prosthetics team and performers, with the performers meeting their mirrored digital characters rendered on the LED volume. Having translated their craft to a digitized cast, could they then recreate or adapt physically the digital assets that they'd designed? And in most cases, the answer was yes, it worked very well. But certainly Ariel, the character of Ariel, through this process had kind of become this very stylized digital character that doesn't translate easily to more conventional hair makeup realization methods, although arguably fitting for a fairy or sprite character. At this point, I'm going to hand over to James.
Hi, everybody. So Copper Candle is a company that is trying to bring theatre and live events into the metaverse. We're doing this in Fortnite, and there's a couple of reasons why we're trying to do this. And I'm going to explain as well why this relationship with LCF and this project was so beneficial to us. First of all, I just want to put some context, is that we are live theatre professionals. I spent 10 years at the Royal Opera House. I'm a lighting designer. We've spent as a team, we've all had experience working in live theatre. So we really value what is important about the physical elements of the live experience. Next slide, Ben. So why do we need metaverse events? This is our pitch. This is what we pitch to people. There are a lot of reasons why people can't go to live events at the moment. There are physical and mental reasons why people might have a disability to prevent them. My own personal story is that I have social anxiety, so I don't go to live events because I don't like sitting in the auditorium or going to a festival. However, I'm very comfortable watching a virtual gig, for instance, in Fortnite. This is something that affects over 1.8 million people in the UK alone, just the social anxiety part of it. And that doesn't even include people that can't get tickets because they sell out or they can't afford them or they're too far away. So at Copper Candle, we're trying to make live events more accessible by bringing them to people in virtual platforms, and it is extremely popular. Next slide. So Fortnite has 850 million registered players, so you can think of that as an entire continent's worth of people who play Fortnite. It creates an incredible amount of money for people that are independent like us. We don't make the money at the moment, but we hope one day maybe we will. And there is lots and lots of people out there who are producing music. Fortnite themselves are making music, and Travis Scott has made over $20 million on his own set that had over 12 million people turn up to see it. So this is definitely a thing, and it's here to stay. Next slide, Ben. But why are we interested in what we're researching here of LCF? Well, fundamentally, we believe in the importance of the physical practice that we have preserved in our industry for hundreds of years. However, we need new digital practices. Now, there's two aspects to this challenge. One is that we need digital artists who can help us make our concerts, and they don't exist, and we need to train them. Equally, we are constantly being challenged the fact that our work will take employment away from the current pool of physical artists, not just the musicians and the dancers and the singers, but scenic artists, stage managers. They all need to transfer their skills to the digital. So how easy is it? How possible is it to take your skill set and transfer it? How adaptable can education and curriculum be to teach both methods so they can find jobs in both sectors? That is the point of this brief from our side, and I have to say I think it was hugely successful to see some amazing students undertake digital practices that were completely foreign to them and really triumphing. You can see in the content that Ben's showing that they really did produce some outstanding digital content using their physical experience and talent. Thank you.
Thanks, James. And finally, Molly.
Yeah. So comparing how the practical skills of hair, makeup and prosthetics transfer over into the digital age was important to explore due to the gap that is currently within industry. The industry is built around traditionalism, and although some industry professionals are breaching out into the futurism of digital work, there's still a big knowledge gap between the two. With the use of AI, gaming, fashion and other digital platforms, there has been need more than ever to explore how having hair, makeup and prosthetic skills can transfer over into this type of work. Currently, digital techniques are being used mainly in the prosthetic industry with the use of digital scanning, sculpting and 3D printing. And although this is further along within the development pipeline, this is still being explored in a growing skill set. Having previous knowledge as a prosthetic artist and understand how certain processes need to be pieced together allows them to curate this on a digital sculpting platform. There is less crossover within the hair and makeup industry. Aspects of digital practice is slowly coming into play, with it being more so used within design stages rather than the practical stages. So for us working within this project, it's important to explore how we develop the use of digital practices and not just being used for that designing. During this project, the students participants pulled on their practical skills and enhanced their character creations. Using the understanding of placement and application skills they already had, students then were only learning the new technical digital skills that were required. Students fed back each digital session they attended and reflected how they felt they could use this software and skills learned in their own practice as a hair and makeup artist. The main quote from one of the students' feedback was that learning this software, as with other software, feels similar to learning a new language. And this is one of the constraints that was not considered when we first started the project, that the vocabulary used when combining two different industries does not always translate over. And this is something we would consider developing further on how we branch the communication between practical and digital artists. To start moving this sort of forward and this transfer of skills further, we reached out to Dr. Alex Box, who is an advocate for breaching the gap between practical and digital hair and makeup. She's a pioneer for beauty futurism and how we blend art, science and technology. Dr. Box is one of the co-founders of a new digital platform called Metrics. And this is a software that allows digital makeup to be created but is user-friendly for makeup artists. This new software will help bridge the gap between the hair and makeup artists and digital work by making digital software more accessible. So to start embedding this in the curriculum, we are trying to introduce students to Dr. Alex's Box work and to Metrics, the software. It's been more easier to embed more digital sessions to the prosthetic side of the course this year, as there's more development within this side of the industry. But within education, there's still a separation between the practical side and the digital skills. So over the next year, we're breaching that by breaching that separation and working to develop new workshops that merge the practical and digital techniques using the pipelines from the project to help us inform us moving forward. We're also going to continue developing the same number of digital workshops on the hair and makeup side of the course that the prosthetics have. And this should start introducing students and future makeup artists into considering digital practice moving forward. Back to you, Ben.
Thank you, Molly. And that is the end of our presentation. You can reach out to any one of us on those QR codes there. And thank you for listening. And apologies, we did overrun slightly. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben, Molly and James. That was a fantastic presentation. And Ali, I'm going to give Ali a little bit more time by coming to him first for a couple of questions just to get us back into his space. Both brilliant and really technically challenging pieces of R&D. So Ali, I was interested to understand the impact of some of these advanced simulations. I mean, even just watching it myself, and it's not on a big screen. This is, I'm just watching it from a laptop. I have to say that I found it quite emotionally impactful, and great reveal. I was, I just missed 9/11 when that took place. So, so it does resonate. I just wonder what kind of experiential impact that you might have had in terms of feedback from those viewing the simulations might be. Can you touch on that a little bit, please?
Thank you very much. Amazing question, Jane. So exactly one of the biggest challenges is making sure that the safety is there and this is not causing any traumatic kind of experience for people who are actually watching it. Sometimes the previous experiences, like you mentioned, 9/11, when I was actually showing this in Sydney, there was a lady in the workshop and she was actually experiencing one of our slides in person in New Zealand, and our picture was actually bringing those bad memories. So I think one of the biggest challenges is actually how we can safely and moderately using these spaces for making sure that you're actually creating that sort of like awareness and how the decision making should be in a fraction of seconds. So making an example about the other project we have, wildfire is something like that. When it hits someone, actually you have like 2 to 3 minutes to make a decision. That's that fast. But when you see the data or from a satellite image, it might be kind of much safer. So the adding the immersion and adding those sensory stuff like the sound of rumbles coming down, and I think one of the biggest thing I got from the first responders from Australia was like the smell of blood, which is quite intense in the sea. So obviously you can't actually deliver all of that if you want to have like a safe experience, but that can actually help many stakeholders in the kind of these scenarios to actually use these. On the other hand, for something like a virtual production or game industry, days and weeks and months you need to actually spend in like creating like a 3D simulation of a building coming down in an earthquake or something. That can be now done by like in one day using a machine, and then that can be created as a co-created by people who are in that space and the machine. So it saves a lot of time for like the experts who invest in time on other useful things. And it can actually bring in a lot of different kind of scenarios for them to creating some sort of like environments for shooting action videos.
And I just want to touch a little bit on that emotional element, because it's not even necessarily because one can associate it to an experience that one's had. It's actually something in the physical motion of the article, the building in this case, depleting. There's something strange about that connection, even though you might not be connected to any kind of relatable experience. And then how it is, for example, obviously with something like earthquakes, there's all sorts of secondary scenarios such as flood and fire, etc. So how then will you manage that kind of representation given the already quite emotional context of buildings coming down and that type of simulated effect?
And just adding to that, we all watching the climate change and phenomenon, which wasn't actually quite common in Europe, like the wildfire or tsunami or something like these things are not. But we have been outside the UK in like a holiday, and something like this happened. We don't know how to react against it. So it has two sides actually. One is actually for the creative industries to use it, and the other side is actually for creating like a citizen awareness and helping actually policymakers and first responders to react more efficiently.
That brings me on to my next question. So outside of, broadly speaking, emergency response sectors, what other areas of production do you think that this kind of simulation might have an application?
I think look at our YouTube channel, the video I show, and I hope that you have seen the video in the real-time speed, but bringing the whole city down is like something that we showed this in Japan, and that was kind of like bringing like memories of Godzilla movie. So I think for many like a production studio, it's not always about the building. It could be about like a human agent interaction, could be about autonomous driving. So there are plenty of like games actually designed around like how you can actually create sort of like scenarios for serious games and things like that. So the application is massive. We have tested that in our facility, which I show on the image, that it is designed to be run on end display on Unreal, so it can be actually be used for like the LED walls. It can be used for projection spaces. And then I think the application of it is limitless. So we want actually to the next stage to showcase this thing and see that who can come with what creative ideas and suggestions that how they can use it in different applications. But at the moment, I think game and visual productions are the main application we can think of.
Okay, so there's a call to arms to everybody listening to present Ali with some challenges. Please do put some questions in the chat, although I do have plenty, but we'll stop if there's anything that comes in. Ben, Mollie, and James, I'm interested to understand also how it's made you feel about the concept of simulation. How close to reality do you want to get, or how far from reality do you think it's more interesting to go, and that notion of believability that we play with as humans in these digital contexts? What sort of experiences do you feel that you can take away from this particular level of R&D that you've been able to engage with?
That's a good question.
I could go if you want.
Do you want to go? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I think I would challenge whether or not we should be trying to achieve believability, and if what we have in our real world is believable when we're experiencing art and particularly entertainment. From the other side of the stage, sitting behind a production desk, I can say that there's an enormous amount of artifice in what we create. The entertainment industry is full of illusion, and we paint scenery and we try to pretend that that's a castle. We put people in costumes and makeup that don't look anything like the real world, and yet we pretend that it's the real world, and the audience go on a journey with a willing suspension of disbelief. And what we're doing in the digital world is no different. It's just that it's pixels rather than paint. So I think that we don't need to achieve believability. All we need to do is to harness good storytelling, good creativity, and lots of talent, and it will come through.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think also to add to it, one aspect of the workflows I guess you do become quite reliant on is metahuman, and for those that don't know what metahuman is, that is effectively the metahumans are a cast of I guess we would say sort of photorealistic kind of 3D avatars that with MetaHuman Creator you can then tweak, and you can alter the physiognomy, and you can apply some quite sort of crude, I would say, sort of makeup techniques, and but you're already starting from a baseline of quite a high level of realism, and I was slightly uneasy about that because it's kind of already made a certain amount of creative decisions for you. You know, once you start embracing that, and you're forced down this, not forced, but encouraged, I guess, to kind of to go down quite a photoreal aspect. Whereas actually, in terms of materials, it would have been quite interesting to explore something, you know, aesthetics and techniques that are much more absurdist or surreal or bizarre or based on computer graphics rather than trying to faithfully represent, you know, and there'd be lots more experimentation we could have brought into it. And it's not that we didn't do that, but there is a certain way where the tools we were working with did kind of encourage a particular aesthetic that you may not have started with otherwise. But yeah, Molly, did you want to add anything to that? Sorry.
No, you
That being said, that level of realism through our makeup students was really quite attractive. And from a makeup artist point of view, I could see, you know, they were very drawn to metahumans, and being able to work that way with that level of realism was a step in the process that I think they found really highly beneficial. Sorry, Molly, I just cut over.
Yeah, that's right. So I basically was about to say that as well. So I think for the students, when they got these realistic avatars, especially when they were scanned in a format, it allowed them then to sort of start using their skills that they already had practical wise, and then start implementing them into the digital space. It was more so you could kind of see with Prospero, where he was fully digitalized, that the character then started embodying, and the texture of the skin started then coming out, and it was more of a sort of, still had a realistic element, but more hyper realist, sort of more surrealist. So I think the students started visualizing when they saw their digital performers, started visualizing in a more realistic sense of what they could achieve. There was only really one character that I'd say that took the laws of physics and just went wild with it, that then when it came to creating it in a realistic form, it couldn't be created. So I think it depends on how you kind of view it from your own skill set, and how you kind of then take that and where the characterization goes.
Brilliant. And do you think that in the development of digital humans as we understand them in all their variable good, bad and ugly form to date is lacking the kind of input that you bring? You all have physical experience to draw upon in different forms. What's your view of that value of physical experience that you're bringing to this particular kind of work?
I think, go on, Molly.
I was going to say, I think it takes away the personalism that you have when you're working with a real performer. But we very much was exploring the different conversations that you would need to have regarding how you would deal with likeness, how you would deal with characterization and stuff. Because when you're in that working environment, when you're collaborating with performers and with other people, you talk about those and how people view themselves portraying characters. Whereas with this, when you've got a digital self, you haven't got the other person on the side. So I think for us, it brought up a lot of conversations around sort of like who owns the likeness of it and how far you can kind of push those side of things.
And can you touch a little bit, Ben and James, in terms of your own material practices, your own physical, material practices, and how it is that you think that knowledge is enhancing or not the capability that this space requires? Could you speak to a little bit on that?
Yeah, I can, if you want, Ben.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, so my job at the Opera House was head of visualization. So I spent 10 years looking at all of our productions through a virtual lens. So for me, it feels very normal to think of theatre and live events being presented in a digital format, because that's how I saw all of our productions. No one else ever did, but that was my world. But actually, I want to sidetrack very slightly to Industrial Light and Magic and the very first time that they moved from physical to digital, which was when they did Jurassic Park, the original. There's a guy called Phil Tippett who I locked in my mind, because what he did was transformational. He was a stop motion artist, so he would do all of the the Terminator and all the early VFX where someone was moved by positioning a robot puppet and taking a photo of every single frame, and that was how they were going to do Jurassic Park until a 3D modeler put a monitor on his up on his filing cabinet as the CEO was walking past with a picture of a 3D rendered dinosaur, and they saw that and went, "We want that." And poor Phil Tippett was out of a job, but he then had to go and work in the digital department, explain to them how to make the dinosaurs move, because he understood the physical processes. Now, that's an example from the film industry in 1990 something. The game industry has similar examples. Architecture has similar examples. There's a whole wealth of examples of industries that have managed to take their existing practices and observe them in digital. Except for the theatre and live events industry, we're extremely stubborn and we're not moving forwards. I can speak to this as an academic as well, because this is actually my PhD research subject area, and trying to understand that slight dissidence that we have in our industry to want to embrace new technology, even though we've seen many technological transformations that sort of happen in our industry. So I think that there is a great opportunity for us to embrace this new form of technology by observing our existing methods. And if we want to know how to do that, we just have to look at our partners from our other design sectors and see how they do it.
Thank you. Ali, I just wanted to also cover with you how you track, for example, fidelity and simulate, between simulation and the real thing. How do you measure that? Do you measure it? Is it something that you feel is required of you? Because I'm presuming you're wanting to convey an element of accuracy, whatever we understand that to be. That's quite a complicated concept, actually, in the context that you're working. But it'd be very interesting to understand how you approach that within the level of simulation you're trying to achieve.
Before I answer your question, Jane, I want to relate to James' answer, which was quite interesting and intriguing as well. So yes, theater studies may actually be a bit conservative against this, but imagine there are a lot of talents in areas that they don't have access to, places like London or many other kind of big cities, and how these new technologies can actually provide a remote access to these sort of opportunities for many young talents that we can quite see them in British Got Talent or American Got Talent or something like that, to see the future stars actually born from places that we don't imagine. To answer your question about what level of fidelity and accuracy is needed, so there's always a balance between these two, and there's always going back to co-designing these spaces with the stakeholders rather than for the stakeholders. So I think as a human, we have something called just noticeable difference, and anything after that is just like either cannot be perceived or is not necessary. At the same time, saying that this project that we did was quite technically challenging, because when you're speaking about real-time simulation or close to real-time simulation, you have a lot to consider, and there are a lot happening in the background with AI. which is not even actually visualized. But a rendered scene or a prefabricated scene is a completely different scenario. So I think the advice on what level of fidelity and what level of accuracy is needed is actually everybody in a project should sit down together, as we did actually this one, and then identifying actually what is key for people and how we should. So sometimes you need like a photorealistic graphics. Sometimes you need like amazing immersive sound. So the computational budget is limited if you're looking into like a new ways of computing. So how do you create a balance between everything that at the end of the day you have like an immersive experience which create that suspension of disbelief as well as not needing like a multi-million-pound kind of infrastructure to run it, because you need to actually be portable in the future and then run it in many other platforms.
Brilliant, thank you. And just to think about a slightly different perspective, and that is of the audience. So both of you have presented, had the opportunity to present these projects to different types of different levels of public for feedback, etc. And I just would like to hear from both of you, Ali first, as to any insightful feedback, something that surprised you that you didn't expect from anybody viewing your work, and how it is that may have fed into or will feed into future practice as you evolve this tech engagement.
Exactly. One of the things that I mentioned early in my presentation, that we didn't expect a lot of application when I was talking to Damian, actually the PI of the XR Network+. There were a lot actually to just suddenly out of like a 10-minute chat came out, and then we are still actually getting surprised by the audience coming and seeing this thing in the biggest space we have in the RC and the opportunities this thing can create in the future. As I said, Earthquake is one of the things that we made. The idea is actually the automation and the pipeline that we can create for such platform for any sort of like a dynamic environment that can be used in the future. I think one of the things that surprising in this project is the location of people in this project. So we have people from Sydney. My postdoc is now in MIT in US. So we have like people in different continents in the world, and platform like this can let you to work together. And that's why I'm the only one presenting today. But I think this running this thing on different labs around the world, providing this opportunity to getting feedback from people in Japan, from people in Australia, from people in Europe, and then using this feedback as a collective wisdom for the future development and for the future generation of these sort of tools.
Thank you. And Ben, Mollie, James, what surprising feedback have you had from the various opportunities to engage with audiences along the way? What's been something that you didn't expect, and how might that feed into future R&D?
I think the AI, well, probably from my perspective, when we started using stable diffusion, so the AI, generative AI, and then also virtual production at the end, like the generative AI was to be able to generate and then customize that quite, in a quite an effective workflow, I think opens up a lot of scope and possibilities for, because there's two things here. There's one is to design well and to design whatever, and that's a complicated thing to unpack in itself. But it's to design these sort of rich and complex, engaging characters I spoke of at the beginning. But then there's also that need within industry to be fast and to be quick with it. And I think for us, like generative AI kind of opened up quite a lot of possibilities there for it's certainly to be able to design for like ensemble casts. And then the virtual production was, I think that became interesting because that shoot suddenly kind of opened up our eyes to a host of possibilities for, really developing those kind of hybrid practices and physical and digital, and where the physical kind of meets the digital, which was something at the time which was difficult for us to sort of explore meaningfully within the time that we had. And if we develop that more, that opens up quite exciting possibilities for storytelling, I think.
And anything specific from a viewer, so a member of the public, that
Well, it's a prototype, so
either of your work. So
we haven't yet.
any feedback that you think you just didn't expect, something that really has, perhaps impacted or maybe made you change tack in terms of your thinking? It'd be really interesting to know.
As it's what we haven't yet achieved, which is for us to be able to share the experience on Fortnite. We haven't. So we've got the project within Unreal Engine that people are tested with, but what we haven't got is developing that kind of that gameplay in the Fortnite experience. So it hasn't become publicly available as it is a prototype. So we haven't got that specific feedback yet, but that is something that we're planning on and working on at the moment, is to have that available in Fortnite, which we can then test on audiences and invite further feedback at that point. James, did you have anything you wanted to?
Well, I think it's just a definition of the audience in this case. I mean, like, audience on a production would be sitting on the people that view it. But I think in terms of this project, our audience was actually the students. They were the ones that we were looking through the lens. They were the lens we were looking through. And what surprised me about what they reacted to was how much their skill set did transition into these digital skills. Now, obviously, there's language changes and there's an element of diversion from what they already know, but they were able to transition their skills really effectively. And we've created a thing now called the Copper Crew, which is for lots of people like this that want to get experience doing digital work. And I think Zach's actually one of them has joined us. They come and join our little community, and we keep encouraging this practice. So people that want to learn Unreal, the people that want to figure out Fortnite, they can come to us with their existing skills, and we'll help them transition in exchange that they do some work with us to develop our ideas as well. Just basically keeping a bit of an informal R&D exercise going. That really came out of this and one other project, but largely from talking to the students that were involved and hearing what they thought of it, and say I think of them as the audience in this case because that was who we were observing.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I would agree.
And Mollie, any key insights from you? Last word.
No, just basically sort of backing up what James was saying there, that it was really intriguing to see the students, how they transferred over the skills, but also for them, like the use of terminology and stuff and everything we kind of didn't really think would be an issue. Kind of the crossover didn't happen very well because there's terminology we use within the industry that is used in a different way when you move to a digital skill set. So that was kind of the thing that really came out of it for us.
Well, I have to say thank you both teams for, I know Ali, you're one of a large team, but not all present, but thank you both teams for really wonderful projects, both operating in the simulation space in ways that, we may not have expected as an audience. So thank you very much, all of you, for fantastic presentations today. Before we go, I'm going to give you a quick roundup of what next at XR Network+. Our next seminar will be taking place on the 23rd of October at 2 p.m. on the theme of sustainability and XR. We're doing something slightly different for this one. One of the presentations will be on the XR Network+ project Terra Datum from Northumbria University. And this project aims to be more accurately track the energy required to power a production using VP techniques, transforming the outputs into a digital artwork. Then the second presentation will come from an external project. On Par Productions will share insights into how their project aims to develop sustainable VP services and cut carbon emissions within the film and TV industry. Also coming up is our latest XR Network Roadshow on the 8th of October. This roadshow will be taking place in York at York Guildhall. Everybody welcome. It also marks the midpoint of the XR Network+ project, and we'll be celebrating our achievements so far, showcasing several of our projects, including the two you've seen here today, whilst looking towards the future. We do hope you can join us. Please do sign up via Eventbrite. And we'll also be back at this year's Beyond conference in November, sharing outputs from this year's XR Network Plus challenge with the Royal Shakespeare Company. And finally, please do visit the XR Network Plus website to sign up to our newsletter and follow us across social media to hear about the latest of what we're up to. Ask us questions, please contribute. And thank you once again for joining us today, everybody, our wonderful presenters, fantastic projects, really exciting, definitely pushing at the cutting edge of this field in very different ways, but with many synergies. Big thanks to Ali, Ben, Molly and James, and you, the audience. See you next time. Thank you very much, everybody.